Hi, my name is Ali Ariano, and I'll be presenting Chapter 19, Digital Imaging and Photography. As you see behind me, I actually have my Nikon D3000 sitting back there. I do myself love taking photographs, especially of people, but also of landscapes. I've had the opportunity to travel a little bit, and so my trusty friend has definitely come alongside me in all of my adventures. This past weekend, I was able to go to the Houston Photo Fest, which was an exhibit of some different photographers in the local area, and it was definitely a lot of fun and very interesting. So I definitely think that this chapter is very fitting for me to present on. Before we begin, the chapter itself actually started off very powerfully. It started off with the explanation of George Orwell's classic novel 1984, which deals with the loss of civil liberties based on the government's mass surveillance techniques. I think it's interesting that it starts off there, especially since if you flash forward to today, you hear a lot on the news about surveillance and the government watching us and the government tapping into our emails. This is very much something that is prevalent in our society today. And so I didn't want to overlook that as we began this chapter. But as we segue into this chapter, I do want to just hit a couple highlights of the background information of digital imaging and photography. So as you all know, digital imaging has changed media and just how we view images. When we see something, we all have probably heard the science behind how our eyes capture and then our brain makes sense of what we see. With photography, it's a still. So we're seeing something and then we're able to actually look into depth into what is it that we're looking at, and we're appreciating more what we get to see. So going back to 1906, that's when images actually first began to be manipulated. The first photographer or person who took a picture was actually Joseph Niepce. I'm not quite sure how to say that. But he derived from experimenting with the newly invented lithograph process. This whole process took 80 hours of exposure to sunlight. First digital camera, however, was made by Kodak, and I'm sure all of you have heard and are familiar with Kodak. They make disposable cameras, but also prints. They had a long-standing business up until recently. Recent developments in photography. So there's been 3 decades of digital imaging. Recently, the post-shutter release is getting quicker. Also megapixels, if you've heard of that, even on cell phones and also on cameras are beginning to expand as well. However, a lot of you may have heard of something called Instagram or Flickr or PhotoBucket. These are all social media sites that people can actually log into and then take photographs and then show it to whoever they want, whether it be their brother, their sister, their cousin. They could be all across the world. So now we're seeing things like photography not necessarily being a high-end digital resolution, however, maybe a little bit more classic and a little bit more vintage, especially with the Instagram filters. There's a filter that is actually called vintage. So that's some of the recent developments. A lot of that can go hand in hand with social media, perhaps. So what is the current status now that we've hit a little bit of the background? Well, like I said, photo book publishing, imaging sharing is the lone bright spot of this digital imaging and photography era that we're coming out of. If you've heard of something like Shutterfly, so this is a website that you can actually take your photos, upload them, and then you can either make a book out of them by placing the photos, putting captions, or you can actually just send your photos to them and they'll actually process it and make a book for you. I've actually done this. It's a very neat site, but that's kind of where we're going into this digital age. Like all of the technology that we've studied, it really is exploding on the technology side of it all. What's another thing that we all know is the up and coming buzzes and continues to be the buzz, camera phones. A lot of smartphones have megapixels upwards of 10 megapixels. So a lot of people are using their phones. If you go on sites such as Instagram or Photobook, you have the ability to be able to post your Instagram post and then go directly to a Photobook site, and just kind of bridging that. So camera phones are definitely taking more of that market of digital imaging. Now, let's examine Instagram, Facebook. How they change our digital sharing? Well, like I said, you can take a photo and in one click of a button, you can post it to Facebook and post it to Instagram. And you can follow every move that you make, but you can also follow every move that everyone else has made. And that's really shaped what the world has been like, because now you know what you're doing, but you know the business of everyone else's. There's lots of photographs that are being shared on Facebook and also on Instagram. Instagram right now has the most users. It's the largest social mobile network, and it's only 4 years old, which, reading that myself, just realizing that it is so new and it's taken over the market, I find very interesting. So what to watch? What should we be watching for with digital imaging and photography? Faithful recordings of our past will blur with manipulated recordings. So obviously, we have to be careful because there's a lot of people who have in the past altered videos, and there's a little bit, I guess, of question for authenticity when it comes to photographs or videos. I think we've all been there where someone has taken a photo, and you wonder sometimes, did they take that from somewhere? Did they really take that themselves? Lines start to become blurred with photographers, and I've read many articles with the ability to alter images, and is it really portraying? I'm sure you guys have heard the moon landing. That's a big controversy that people still are making documentaries and studying over. Was that a special effects studio? Was that video altered? Is the flag really waving in the right direction? And so with that, you can kind of see that with this new era of being able to manipulate digital imaging and also videos, you do start to question authenticity at times. Another is privacy issue, which was talked about at the beginning of this and also in the beginning of this chapter with the book. That's going to remain on social networking. So they're really trying to begin to make new rules and regulations in order to keep things that need to stay private. And so as you guys, I'm sure, have known, if you have Instagram or Facebook, they're updating their privacy where they stand on that, and you can actually go in and check probably twice as many boxes as you used to on what you want people to see and what you want your friends to see and what you want your friends of friends to see. So this is definitely, with the accessibility to be able to post whenever and however, this is definitely something that is something to watch as the years continue. Even just on Twitter the other day, with everything that's going on with ISIS in the Middle East, when is a photo or a video inappropriate and crossing boundaries? There were parents of a son who was brutally murdered, and they were asking Twitter to take down all the videos and all of the photos that had been leaked, and asking for that privacy. And so we're going to continue to see this with the accessibility, like I said. So with all of that, we kind of go back to the foundation of photography. What is the point of photography and digital imaging? And it's to capture moments. It's to remember what happened when it happened. So my question for you is social media destroying the art of photography? Let me know yes, or let me know no, and let me know why as well.